So what are blood groups? So blood groups are nothing but the surface antigens which are present on the surface of the RBC. Antigens which are present on the surface of RBC, isn't it? So we have Landsteiner's law, which is actually very important, which I told previously also. Like the surface of the RBCs will contain an antigen which is called as agglutinogen. Okay, and corresponding agglutinin, that is antibody, must be absent in the serum. If a particular agglutinogen is absent in the RBC, the corresponding agglutinin, this is nothing but vice versa of what we are just discussing. Okay, so Landsteiner's law itself can come as a 3 marks question also. So that means whatever RBC surface antigen is present, that corresponding antibody won't be there in the blood. Okay, now with the help of this table, we will try to elaborate. I told you this will come as an essay and I will discuss in detail. See here, we have the basic ABO system of, we have many systems of blood groups. The popular among all these is ABO blood groups. In ABO blood groups, we have AB, A, B, AB and O. So A blood group, the surface of RBC has A antigen and the antibody in the blood is B antibody, anti-B. B blood group will have A antibody. A and B antigens containing blood group has no antibody, and like RBC, if it has no antigens, it is called as O blood group and it will have both the antibodies. Okay, so O is called as universal donor and AB is called as universal recipient. Now how is that? See here, suppose if there is no antibody, it can receive any blood group, isn't it? That's why AB is universal recipient. Suppose if it has no antigens, so it can be given to any of the blood group. That's why this O is universal donor. Okay, so that is ABO system of blood groups. So mostly you should have done the experiments like on the tiles you will take the blood sample and you will put one like different types of colors will be there, as far as I remember, blue, yellow, something, isn't it? So wherever agglutination or clumping is seen, that indicates that is your particular blood group. Okay, so that is an experiment. See here, agglutination, determination of blood group. So see here, group A blood group agglutination with anti-A. That means antibody A will cause lysis of RBCs containing A antigen. Similarly, B blood group will have like B antigen, so B antibodies will lyse it. Okay, AB agglutination with AB antibody. Okay, O blood group no agglutination, neither with antibody A nor antibody B because it has no antigens on its surface. Okay, that is one experiment which you usually do in your physiology practicals. Now, we have discussed about donors and recipients. Then matching and cross matching. What do you mean by cross matching? Suppose my blood group is A blood group. I should be given only A blood group. Why not B? Because suppose if I am given B blood group without checking properly, the B blood group person will have A antibody. And if I am given B blood group, that A antibody entering into my blood will lyse, something like this will happen. So A antibody, A antigen on the surface of RBC, the natural RBCs present in the person will be lysed and person will suffer with hemolytic anemia. Okay, and also jaundice and so many complications will occur. So it is always very important to do matching. Okay, blood matching in the lab test done to determine the blood group of the person. Okay, so when person needs blood transfusion, another test is cross matching is done after the blood is stamped. So it is done to find out whether the person's body will accept donor's blood or not. Okay, so matching is recipient's RBC plus test serum. Cross matching is recipient serum plus donor's RBC. Either you do this way or this way. Anyway, finally we should know whether whatever is being transfused is correct or not. Very important. Okay. So then we have inheritance of ABO agglutinin, agglutinin. This is a repetition of what is the basic concept we have. Transfusion reaction. mismatched transfusion, what will happen? RBC will get lysed. Inheritance. So inheritance, suppose if the person has A blood group, both the genes are carrying A, obviously in the offsprings we will have A only. So if it is AA combination, you have to just put in the form of that checkerboard, then it becomes easy in fact. Okay, A is dominant. So this is also represented as A blood group only. B is dominant. That means one dominant gene, one recessive gene. Okay, if both are recessive OO genes are there, then only we will see that for person's phenotype of blood will be O blood group. Okay, that is. Apart from that, we also have this factor which is called as RH factor. So generally, this was first discovered in rhesus monkeys. Then we have, so if RH factor is present, you use the word capital D, and if it is not there, you generally use the word small d. So RH positive and RH negative. So that means whatever blood group you have grouped as ABO, in that also we have plus and minus. Okay, if capital D is there, you consider it as A positive. If small d is there, that is generally considered as A negative. Okay, that means ABO is further A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative. So that type of classification is second, one more important classification, that is RH. See here, this is again a very good type of inheritance which we can see. Father is suppose two capital D's means two dominant genes for RH positive, mother two recessive genes, she is RH negative. All four offsprings you will see one capital D and small d. As long as capital D, that is RH positive factor is there, phenotypically the person, suppose if it is A blood group, it will be A positive only, B positive, AB positive, O positive, something like that. And there is no problem even if both the parents are RH negatives, because all the kids will have all negative groups, and there will not be any complication to the babies during pregnancy and also parturition. This we will see what is erythroblastosis fetalis as we proceed. See, in case of father is heterozygous, one dominant, one recessive, and mother is homozygous for two recessive genes, then you will see two are RH negative and two are RH positive. Okay, so what happens if mother is RH negative and father is RH positive? See, as long as first pregnancy is concerned, usually there will not be any complication, because we know placenta is a barrier which is not allowing the things to pass across the placental barrier. That means the antibodies and antigens cannot cross across the placental membrane. That means there is only exchange of gases, I said, exchange of material across the membrane, but RBCs will not be exchanged. That means fetal RBCs cannot enter into maternal circulation, maternal RBCs cannot enter into fetal circulation. That's the reason during first pregnancy, the first baby will not have any complication. Okay, and though mother is negative and father is positive. But at the time of delivery, due to the rupture of placenta, okay, and you see during the parturition, you will see during the third stage of labor when placenta comes out, the small capillaries will be ruptured, because of which few fetal RBCs will successfully enter into maternal blood circulation. So when the fetal RBCs are entering into maternal blood circulation, the mother's blood gets sensitized. That means we know mother's blood is having negative blood group, and now fetal RBCs are having positive blood group, because of which now the mother will develop antibodies against the positive RBCs. Okay, so suppose if she is becoming pregnant for the second time with the baby with something like this D and D, that means the baby is RH positive and mother is RH negative, we know antibodies can cross the placental barrier. So that means the antibodies which are produced against the positive antigens, whether it be A positive or B positive or AB positive or O positive, because of the sensitization which has occurred during first pregnancy, what happens? Those antibodies will enter into fetal circulation and it will lyse the fetal RBC. If the condition is severe, the fetus may die. Okay, that condition is erythroblastosis fetalis. Generally, during the very first test, what we do in routine examination, whenever the mother is coming for like during pregnancy checkups. But even if it is a rural hospital or government PHC, the very first test which is done is blood group. Okay, so then we will come to know whether mother is positive or negative. Okay, so generally there is an injection which is called as anti-D injection, which neutralizes the antibodies which are produced in maternal blood, so that it will not cross the placental barrier and it will not damage or harm the fetal RBCs. Okay, beta, are you understanding? Hema, Ritika, Imad, did you understand what I was trying to tell you? Erythroblastosis fetalis.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, beta. So that is beta. So apart from the ABO blood groups, we have many other blood groups which are not so important. You can just give the names like Davies blood group, other blood like Nico, Bombay, Duffy. So many are there. Just you can name them, but explanation is not required. So that is about physiological basis of blood grouping, blood groups and clinical importance. You have to talk about erythroblastosis fetalis. Okay, actually this answer we have discussed, that is the oxygen transport. Okay, so what is the oxygen dissociation curve? Respiratory system I have taken as a separate chapter also, and recently in the papers also I have discussed this. Okay, then we will go with surfactant. Yes, Imad? Hema, Ritika, Ritika, we have unmuted. We'll go with surfactant, beta.
Okay, ma'am.
It's just 2 days back only I have described that oxygen dissociation curve. Okay, then please take out page number for surfactant. I open the page. Can anybody tell me the chemical composition? What is it made up of?
Of what, ma'am? Surfactant.
Yeah. Think over. I will open the page.
Ma'am, surfactant reduces the surface tension.
Chemically, beta. Chemical composition.
Chemical comp.
That is the first point you should write in your answer sheet. .684 page, beta, if you have my edition. 684 page. It's a phospholipid, beta. Chemically, it is a phospholipid.
Okay,
It reduces surface tension. 684. Yes, beta. You can just look at the screen. See? So surfactant is surface acting material or agent that is responsible for lowering the surface tension. Basically, when you look at the alveoli, somewhere I just found the picture. Just try to figure out, like we have alveoli, no, balloon-like structures. So lining, see, suppose these are the alveoli, which are balloon-like structures. The interior of the alveoli are lined by a thin membrane, which is chemically a surfactant, and this surfactant will prevent the collapse of the alveoli. That means it will maintain the lumen, like it maintains the patency. Patency in the sense it maintains the alveoli are always maintained in open state, not like though oxygen is present or not, they are not 100% collapsed. Okay, that is. lowering the surface tension of the fluid. It is lining the epithelium of alveoli in the lungs. What is the lining epithelium of the alveoli? What type of cells do we find in the alveoli? Ritika?
Simple squamous.
Very good. Simple squamous epithelium. Okay, so inside the lining of the simple squamous epithelium, we have the surfactant, which reduces the surface tension. Okay, so the types of cells, like when we have discussed in histology, actually this point again you have to write in histology also. The sources of surfactant are type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. Basically, as Imad told us, we have lining epithelium of alveoli or simple squamous epithelium. We have type 1 cells and type 2 cells. Type 1 cells are simple squamous cells which are purely concerned with exchange of gases, whereas type 2 cells will be little bigger in size and they will be concerned with the release of this chemical substance. Okay. So then we are finding this in the alveolar cells. We also find Clara cells in the bronchioles. They are also concerned with the release of surfactant. So basically surfactant, it is made up of a lipoprotein complex, okay, especially phospholipids we will see. Okay, so please remember the composition. This is phosphatidylcholine beta, dipalmityl phosphatidylcholine composition. It is made up of a phospholipid. So apart from that, surfactant also contains triglycerides, phosphatidylglycerol. Okay, proteins, you can name few proteins like surfactant proteins SP, A, B, C, D. Okay, A, D are hydrophilic while SP, B and C are hydrophobic. Okay, that is. So surfactant proteins are vital components of surfactant. So ions are also present, mostly calcium ions. So you need not talk about formation of surfactant here. You can start writing from here surfactant. You give the chemistry part also. You write till calcium ions. Okay. So formation part already you have told, like the source is type 2 alveolars and the Clara cells. Okay. By means of exocytosis, you will see the film, the phospholipid film will be released and it will be allowed to line the interior of the alveoli. Okay. Then functions are actually very, very important. Each and every function, whatever is given here, we should know in detail and you should talk about functions. So we know it is reducing the surface tension and prevents the collapsing tendency of lungs. That means it is like lungs are like balloons, no, they are not allowed to just collapse. So that is being maintained because of this phospholipid. Okay, we know it has two, like different types of proteins we have just studied, A, B, C, D. No? So AD are hydrophilic, BC are hydrophobic. Okay, like that. So those are the cells, they are lining in different directions and seeing that the alveoli are maintained in open position. That is all, this paragraph is all about this proteins which are forming the composition of surfactant. Okay, that is. Then surfactant is responsible for the stabilization of alveoli, which prevents the collapse. It plays an important role in inflation of lungs. See, in fetus, secretion begins after third month. Until birth, the lungs are solid and not expanded. Soon after birth, the first breath starts because of the stimulation of respiratory centers present in medulla oblongata, hypoxia and hypercapnia. Okay. That is. Another important function is defense within the lungs. That means it is also killing the microorganisms. So suppose surfactant is not there, then it will lead to a condition which is called as neonatal respiratory distress syndrome in small children. You see newborn babies which are premature babies, they are generally kept with oxygen supplementation, isn't it? Why? Because surfactant is not properly formed. Okay, so once the surfactant is properly formed, then the baby is handed over to the mother. Okay, so that is. Sometimes there may be a disease like acquired disease where you will see surfactant may not be produced. So deficiency of surfactant may occur in adults also, leading to adult respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, that is. So that is all about surfactant. Heart sounds. How many heart sounds are there? And how are they produced?
Four heart sound.
Yeah, tell me fast, like how are they produced? First heart sound.
First heart sound is due to is also known as lump sound. It is produced during ventricular systole. Sorry. Oh, 1 second.
No problem. Yes.
It is produced during ventricular systole.
Like
As
any
first heart
specific
sound.
point, Ritika, can you tell me one specific point which I emphasize while discussing heart sounds, like closure of some valves, right?
Sudden closure of AV valves occur.
That is more important. Okay. So for just look at the screen, even if you have not opened in your respective books. So you have to talk about heart sounds. We have four different heart sounds. First heart sound, second, third, and fourth. Okay. So first heart sound is like isometric contraction period and part of ejection period. Okay, so cause is closure of AV valves. When you discuss cardiac cycle in detail, if you remember, I have actually discussed. I don't remember if Himad was there or not. Hema Ritika for sure were with me. So closure of AV valves will cause the closure of production of first heart sound. So isometric contraction period means what? The AV valves are closed and you will see semilunar valves are also closed and the chambers are full of blood and they are full of contraction. That period is the isometric contraction period. Okay, because of pressure developing in the ventricular chamber, you will see semilunar valves will slowly open and rush of blood will occur in the next phase, of course. Okay, that is part of ejection period. That's why it is written here like this. Anyhow, cardiac cycle again comes as an essay question for sure. I will discuss again. Okay, cause is closure of AV valves, which is corresponding to isometric contraction period and part of ejection period. If you just listen to the sound, it will be long, soft, and low pitched, and it resembles the word love. The duration of this heart sound is zero point 0.1 to 0.17 seconds. Frequency in cardiac cycle, how many times per second it comes? 25 to 45 times. So it is corresponding. We have PCG wave, no PQRST wave. PQR, like it is coinciding with R wave. Okay, there is an instrument which is actually called as phonocardiogram other than ECG. If you just check the number of vibration with that particular machine, first heart sound gives 9 to 13 vibrations. So like that you have to check for second heart sound, third heart sound and fourth heart sound also. Okay, so that is the about heart sounds. Okay, so in fact in if you want you can give like few clinical things also, though it is only 5 marks question. So do we have first heart sound? Anyhow you will learn that also in another answer. Okay, but I will tell once it comes when I am discussing cardiac cycle. Okay, then let us go with next answer. Anemias. So before I open the page of anemias, just tell me first definition of anemia. Hema, what is anemia? Define anemia. 89 page in my book. See here, anemia. The definition is it is deficiency of RBC or hemoglobin, isn't it? Reduction in RBC, hemoglobin, PCV. Any of these conditions you generally name it as anemia. The simplest way to learn anemia is I want you to learn this table thoroughly and this we can elaborate for 5 months. So we have how many? 5 different types of anemias: hemorrhagic, hemolytic, nutritional deficiency, aplastic, and anemia of chronic disease. When you talk about hemorrhagic anemia, hemorrhage means due to heavy blood loss. Okay, it can be acute blood loss or it can be chronic blood loss. Acute blood loss usually we encounter if there is any road accident, road traffic accident and all, we have acute blood loss. Okay, menorrhagia, metrorrhagia, these are all menstrual disorders which are associated with heavy bleeding. Okay, so chronic loss of blood is, there are certain cancers like gastric cancer where daily you will see small amount of blood will be lost in the GIT. The loss of blood in the fecal matter is called as dash. Do you know the term? Melina. Melina is a word which is generally indicating loss of blood in the fecal matter. Small amount of blood if it is lost daily in the GIT. I am giving only few examples. Okay, so chronic is a long-standing, acute is within short period you will see heavy loss of blood, that is acute loss. Okay, now you have to check for the blood picture. How does the blood picture look? See here, normocytic, normochromic in the sense the RBC shape and size will be normal. That is the meaning of normocytic. Now, these pictures are not at all good, but don't know, maybe in your new editions these pictures are little updated or same pictures are continuing. Just check. Okay. So normocytic, normochromic. Okay, in case of chronic blood loss, that means for a long duration there is small amount of blood is being continuously lost, then you will see microcytic hypochromic. That means small RBC and pale RBC. If color is light, then you call it as hypochromic. Then we have hemolytic anemias. That means RBCs are broken down very fast. We know the lifespan of RBC is 120 days. Okay, before the completion of 120 days itself, if we find the RBCs are being broken down due to some underlying conditions, RBCs are being broken down more than normal, then we call it as hemolytic. So many causes are there under extrinsic liver failure, renal disorders, hypersplenism, burns, and so on. Okay, so that is blood picture is normocytic, normochromic again. So intrinsic is within our blood there is some defect like hereditary disorders may be there. Like we have sickle cell anemia where the shape of RBC is becoming sickle, and you will see whenever they are going into small capillaries, they get stuck there and they cannot come back into the circulation and they will get ruptured. Okay, so sickle cell anemias, thalassemias, okay, they come under intrinsic. Okay, so sickle cell anemia, if you just check, this will be the blood picture C is like this. Your shape itself will show you the shape of RBC is sickled, like a sickle which is used to cut the grass. Okay, then we have nutritional deficiency anemia. That means if iron is not taken properly in the diet, the blood picture is small RBC, pale RBC, microcytic hypochromic. Protein deficiency, hemoglobin, heme and globin. Globin part is protein. So if protein is not taken in the diet, then also we will suffer with anemia, protein deficiency. RBC size will be big and pale in color, macrocytic hypochromic. B12 deficiency, macrocytic, few RBCs may be normochromic and few may be hypochromic. Normochromic is normal color and hypochromic they become light pink, pale in color. Folic acid deficiency, again very big sized RBCs. The RBCs which are actually not undergoing proper maturation and they are released into the blood circulation. Such big RBCs, you call them as megaloblasts. They will carry nucleus also and they will not be efficient to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide to and fro from the tissues to the lungs. Okay, that is aplastic. Whenever bone marrow is not functioning, you call it as aplastic anemia. Normocytic, normochromic again. Anemia of chronic diseases. We have non-infectious inflammatory diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic infections, TB, chronic renal failure, neoplasia. That means blood cancers, Hodgkin's disease and all. In all these conditions, you will see normocytic, normochromic. So you just, if anemia is coming as 5 marks question, you give this table and elaborate this table. Whatever has been elaborated, I have just discussed. Okay, read once, you will definitely understand. If you don't understand, you can ask again. Okay, then micturition reflex. What is micturition reflex? How is it developing? 339 page in my book. You have to thoroughly know the nerve supply of urinary bladder here. And your nerve supply of urinary bladder itself may come as 3 marks also. See here. So we know micturition is nothing but passing of urine. That means we have internal urethral sphincter, okay, which is purely like involuntary, and we have external urethral sphincter. This is voluntary. Only when we are ready for the act, the external urethral sphincter will open. Whereas internal urethral sphincter will open without our knowledge also. So they are richly served, like supplied by certain nerves. Okay. So that is, see, you have to learn this nerve supply of urinary bladder and urethra. Okay. We have sympathetic nerves and we have parasympathetic nerves. Sympathetic is coming from L1, L2, and parasympathetic S2, S3, and S4. Okay. Urethra is being supplied by S2, S3, S4. Now there is this is actually system metrogram. So system metrogram is actually helping us to know the pressure which is increasing in the urinary bladder when the person is not passing the urine. Okay. So suppose if the urinary bladder is containing 400 ml of urine, the pressure is around 20 centimeters of water. Now suppose if the like volume inside the urinary bladder has become 50, then 500, then 600, obviously you will feel now you are in the classroom and you are now in a, you have like going, you want to go to washroom, you have an urgency, then you will see the more you stop, the more you feel like going. That means what? More and more collection of water will be there in the urinary bladder, and you will see the pressure inside the urinary bladder will rise. Okay? That is actually cystometrogram. So there is a flow chart which helps us to talk about this micturition reflex. So whenever the urinary bladder is full of urine, the stretch receptors inside the bladder, they get stimulated, and the pelvic nerves will carry, the sensory nerves are being carried through pelvic nerves, sacral segments of spinal cord, efferent impulses also. We have afferent and efferent both, which are carried by pelvic nerves. Then what is the name of the muscle we have inside the urinary bladder? Detrusor muscle. Contraction of detrusor muscle and relaxation of internal urethral sphincter. Okay. Then flow of urine into the urethra and stimulation of stretch receptors. Again, these nerves like pelvic nerves. Then inhibition of pudendal nerve, relaxation of external sphincter. This should relax. Then only person will be able to void the urine. Okay. So for this answer, what you do is give the nerve supply with the help of this diagram. Cystometrogram is anyhow separate answer. It's not related to this answer, but just for your knowledge, I told you. You can add the graph if you want, and then you get this micturition reflex. How the urine is coming out through the urinary bladder and how it is voided. Okay, so that is about micturition. After micturition, we have deglutition. Deglutition, all three of you have discussed. Now, what is deglutition method? GIT, can you please tell me what is deglutition? Oxygen dissociation discussed just last week, that's why I didn't revise deglutition, and now I will tell you. What is deglutition, Himad? Do you remember?